Hey Capricorn, it's Empress Rose. Welcome to your reading. These are general readings, so we take what works and we leave what doesn't, as with everything in life. And if I don't catch your wavelengths on this reading, go check your other major placements, see if I can't catch anything over there. And I will be posting a picture of the spread at the end, unless I forget. So, all right, we're going to start with this Oracle Mystical Moments deck. And this gives us an intuitive vibe. And each of these cards, you know, some of them can feel more specific to a moment than others. I feel like they all have a lot of truth in them, but this is what the tarot and the decks are asking you to particularly focus on this week, even though, you know, even though they all can be like a little bit relevant, these are the ones that are waving their hands like, hey, this is what I want you to pay attention to this week. So let's see here. Whoa. Okay, you have this, the perfect key. You do have the ability to open up a situation and move it forward. This could have something to do with heart. Sometimes this card has to do with communication and just trying to like open up lines of communication with somebody. But this can also be just your heart and your tenderness and your willingness to love being sort of locked away right here for a reason, because we get hurt. And then we need to take care of ourselves and create a sense of safety so that we can heal with that sense of safety. And so we kind of lock things away for a while, but it might be time to unlock that. It's almost like I want to say like a prison hospital or something like that. Like, you're not allowed to leave the hospital. You're not getting discharged, but that's for a reason, because you're still here healing. And so you're not, your heart's sort of locked up in the hospital for a while, but it's got to stay there. It doesn't get discharged. But this might be like, you might get your discharge papers here. You might be ready to leave and to go walk out in the world, vulnerable again, and you know, your bones might have healed, and your whatever hurt you had might be ready to be opened up. So we're considering sort of some discharge papers here for the heart. Heart might be healed and ready to move forward. So your heart itself is telling you it might be time to open up. And this can also be just any kind of situation where you'd like to open it up. You'd like to open lines of communication, something like that, open up to somebody, or have somebody open up to you, and you are going to be able to figure out how to do that. You're going to be able to figure out how to communicate something. You're going to be able to figure out, well, you're just contemplating right now. Being vulnerable, opening that heart up. What's it feel like, going to feel like to walk out of this hospital with back out into the real world without people checking on you every hour and making sure you're taking your medications and all of that. Like this. So anyway, you might be contemplating vulnerability, and you might have the ability to achieve that and to go forward with that. So we have Little Miss Sunshine here, which is going to sort of explain. I like how this one's so bright yellow. And then here we're talking Little Miss Sunshine. This is about feeling very positive about a situation, making sure your mentality is very positive, a lot of personal growth, a lot of mental growth, a lot of optimism and bright ideas. But underneath all that, we have sort of the subconscious issue down here. Maybe a subconscious issue. I think we were dealing with subconscious issues with you guys last week too. But there's some sort of structure down here that we have difficulty seeing, and almost is a shadow, our shadow self, a shadow from this light. Like, however, all these great things about us, all this optimism, there's these doubts, these fears, this little darker underbelly. It's not bad. I mean, it's beautiful. It's still part of our beautiful selves and who we are. And it just needs some love, some affection, not to fix it, but just to understand it, to see it. It needs to be seen. It needs to be examined. So as you're in this positive mode, it's going to elevate you. And as you go up, that spotlight that you're in right now is going to start shining on some of these subconscious issues, maybe some of these fears from the past, some of these ways that you've been hurt, some of these reasons why you might not be feeling very vulnerable or might not have been able to be vulnerable and open. So you've got some sort of subconscious work here. Even as you're being positive, there's something down here. This could be some sort of structure in your life that that might be difficult to mesh with the positivity. There might be something very difficult to deal with. So even though you are being positive, you are sort of being weighed down here. But look, she's clinged on to some sort of divine inspiration, divine connection, her spirituality, I believe, some beliefs here that are raising her up and helping her get better and improve and shine a light in these darker corners of her psyche and her subconscious issues coming to light here. And that's what I think you need to do. That's part of the key here, is you're going to be able to really see into those issues finally and help heal them so that you can feel more confident in opening up communication, opening up your heart, opening up a situation. And then we have the white rose of hope here, which is a lot of this mentality. What's going on in here is this hopeful, optimistic stance here. It's really funny because you're going from this like negative, I don't think so, I'm probably going to get hurt, I don't want to say learned helplessness so much, but just like an expectation of being hurt and being ready to be hurt and being guarded. But contemplating, what if I wasn't like this? What if I was able to be more vulnerable? What if I was able to be more tender and open up this communication and open up my heart a little more? What if I was? And then you start, but then this is hopeful. So this is this sort of pessimism here, and this, I know I'm going to get hurt, but it's not necessarily bad pessimism. It could just be like, hey, we've needed a timeout to recover. But if that goes on too long, then that does become pessimism. All men are assholes, all women are bitches, or whatever, you know, and so this healing time, this time that and it could be anything. It could be like all bosses are jerks, and I don't even know. Yeah, it just could be a mentality that you're in where you're feeling it creates this negativity and this fear and this fear of vulnerability. So it could be very real. If there really are predatory people out there, and there really are really awful people, and we do need to keep our hearts locked up a little bit. But here you are. I think this pessimism, you're contemplating letting it go in a situation. You might be contemplating trusting someone. You might be contemplating vulnerability with a specific person in a specific situation, and not just general wholesale vulnerability to everybody. But you might have found a situation in which you might be willing to unlock that. But you're coming from a place of a little bit of pessimism, skepticism for sure. Look at that face. She's skeptical. Do I really want to do this? Is this really going to be okay? Am I going to be safe? And then you go to this like more optimistic, hopeful place. And this is the card that's sitting in between them. You heading to this optimistic place, but having this sort of maybe dark skepticism basins or some subconscious issues. But you do have a strong hope for the future, which we see in both of these cards. This white light, this beautiful light engulfing your mind, helping you feel more optimistic towards the future and hopeful. All right, Capricorn. This is your past, your present, your inner landscape, what's at issue, your environment, your to-do list, and your possible outcome. Fascinating. In your recent past, you have the Knight of Swords. You've recently had an experience, possibly with a person, or possibly this was your energy, of a lot of focused clarity, some truth, maybe some sharper truths coming charging in, a fast-moving energy of understanding, maybe a bit of epiphany here, but we're coming into another epiphany too. So a lot of understanding, a lot of focus, determination is the energy I feel like you've been in, this very determined, maybe even defensive warrior energy, especially if we're talking about this defensive warrior energy. But you had a lot to back it up. It was it was true. You had been hurt. So here you are. You're being defensive. You're defending yourself. You're charging into battle. You're charging in with your truth, with your ability to defend yourself, with your ability to protect. Your ability to protect yourself and your ideas and your heart. And then in the present situation, we have this Ace of Swords. It's a epiphany coming through. It's almost like the key getting into this heart right here. This epiphany coming through, and see, thanks to one of my viewers for looking this up for me, but this was half blading. So this truth, the sword of truth came in and it got through somebody's armor. It's getting through your armor. You maybe have a lot of defenses up. Your boundaries might be a little too strong, because we can have bad boundaries and then we can have mile wide, long boundaries that people give up trying to get past in order to be close to us. So we could be talking about that, especially with this sense of vulnerability and being defensive with it. And then this truth, this epiphany, this understanding and clarity came in and pierced this armor. It was divinely guided. I want to talk about the crown chakra coming in through that very spiritual, clear understanding, and it came in through these bars right into it was the key, and it's opening that up, and it hit its mark so clearly. But see all this armor out here? This half blading is the way to use the sword as a dagger. With the precision that you get as a dagger. So there was sort of a dagger that came in of spiritual truth, understanding, and epiphany, and it's coming in right now. In your inner landscape, you have the devil. This is addiction energy, having strings pulled. This is Capricorn energy too. We have the little goat god here and his little horns. And this is about separation from our path and the things that separate us from our path, namely, usually, typically something like addiction will be separating from our path because it interferes with our intuition and our ability to adapt to the messages we're getting and the understandings that we're getting. So you could be dealing with some sort of inner addiction issue or some sort of separation from your true path that's been caused by an addiction issue or an ego issue. You could be dealing internally with maybe a very strong an addiction to, ego is very important. We don't want to diss ego because it helps us bring our dreams to reality and protect ourselves and protect our dreams. But we've been overprotective. So this is where ego would become a devil energy because it's overprotective and it's defensive and look at how determined and defiant that face is, as far as just like, separating us from the path of heart and the path of intuition and stuff, just because our ego could be a little strong right now, or we could be addicted to something or addicted to our ego. And even though it can be held, just like so many things that people get addicted to in small doses or in the appropriate amounts, alcohol, food, weed, all of this stuff. And weed's not physically addicting, but all of this stuff typically. All of this stuff can interfere with, it's fine in small doses, but as soon as that addiction energy comes in, that's when it starts to separate us from our path. And so anything can become an addiction. Feeling like you're right all the time, being defensive can be an addiction, all of that stuff. So that's sort of, you're dealing with some sort of really strong. Also, we're talking here about the subconscious issue, and I feel like this can be in our subconscious. So your internal is dealing with some sort of devil energy, addiction energy, separation from something coming in, separating us from our vulnerability, from our heart, from our intuition. With that devil card. And then in your situation here is King of Cups. So in the upright, King of Cups would be a very mature, emotional energy, lots of able to handle the emotional storms, bringing in a cup of love, and being very balanced, very wise with emotions, but it's reversed right here. So we're having this emotional immaturity, or maybe even emotional manipulation. If this king situation has a lot of power and is emotionally immature and has like a lot of power in the situation, they're going to be bringing in some emotional immaturity, some honestly, some devil energy, some not bringing in a love offering, not being very zen about their emotions or their feelings, could be not even being able, oh my gosh, it's the reverse, this is reversed and this is upright. This is not, he's so confident in the upright and vulnerable, able to handle vulnerability because he can handle his feelings, his emotions. He can handle that vulnerability, and his emotions flow through him. He learns from them. He can express them in a very vulnerable way. That's in the upright, but he's in the reverse. So he's not able to express his emotions. He might not be able to be vulnerable. He might not be able to bring in this cup right here. And this could be you or someone you're dealing with, because we have this overprotective mode. We're thinking about coming out of it. So this is just confirmation that the problem here is that we're not feeling that confident. We're not feeling good and confident in our ability to handle our emotions and our ability to be vulnerable. He can't be vulnerable in the reversal. In the upright, he's hella vulnerable because he's got that self-confidence that allows for him to be vulnerable and know that he can handle whatever comes of that. But in the reverse, he doesn't allow himself to be vulnerable because of insecurity, because maybe his ego won't allow him to be vulnerable. Maybe his addiction to something he's overprotective of something and cannot be vulnerable. In your current, something around you, we have the star card. So we could have literally some sort of fame going on around you, maybe a person who is famous. But this is also the flow card. So there's some sort of flow or wish fulfillment. We've got the white rose of hope here, kind of echoing the star card. Well, here you have the wish. Here you have the wish starting to come true. And this is the sort of, I get a cheerleader vibe from this card as far as like being in the flow and the universe being like, yes, keep going. And what happens next? And what do you do next? Yes, this is right. So you're on some sort of right path, right track, and you're getting some feedback in your environment about being on that right path and being on the right track. You're getting some feedback in your environment that, yes, this is the path, go this way. Yes, these keys are here. You can open this. You can be vulnerable. This thing you hope is on the other side of fear. So you've got to conquer some sort of ego fear or fear of being vulnerable. And you know this. This epiphany has come in, this understanding and clarity. The key is in your hand. The key is in your hand. We can see this as a sword, a dagger, and a key for a lock. You're going to pick that lock. And so what's your to-do list? I love this. This could not be better. This deep emotional sharing, this vulnerability, these two cups coming together and sharing their feelings, sharing their emotions in equal measure, side by side. This message from the gods sort of love. This is embodying love for each other, the universal love for each other, kindred spirits, being vulnerable, being open, sharing those cups. So that's your to-do list, and it looks like it's a pretty tall order. I think you can see the wisdom here. I think you understand this already. And we've been contemplating opening our hearts to something, and here it is. This is the straight up request from Tarot to please be vulnerable, open up, share these deep parts of yourself with a safe kindred spirit. What's your possible outcome? Okay. This vulnerability may be a little triggering for you, and you may have to deal with some, everything we want can be on the other side of fear. But also, we might have a little bit of, we might have to deal with that fear. So I'm just preparing you for this next card. It's the Nine of Swords. This is the nightmare card, the anxiety card. This is you. This vulnerability may freak you out a little bit. You may end up very scared. It may trigger you. It may trigger some anxiety in you. This card is telling you you are safe in your bed. your mind is playing tricks on you, could be playing tricks on you, especially if you're experimenting with vulnerability, if you're experimenting with this letting go of the ego and opening up to something and being more positive and more optimistic, you may end up with a little bit of backlash here. This is not uncommon. Turning over a new leaf, especially a new vulnerability leaf, you might go back to having some moments of fear and anxiety about that. You may open up your heart, do this sharing, and then shortly after be like, oh my gosh, what have I done? And go back here for a bit. Know that tarot isn't asking you to do something that it's not here to support long term, but also understand that you could be facing some anxiety from having stepped out very much out of your comfort zone. Here, you know, you're not necessarily comfortable, but you're safe, your safe zone. You've got your safe zone right here. Here we're dealing with this down here. But this hope is going to override this. This desire for connection is going to override these fears and whatever's going on, this devil in your subconscious issues. This hope for this is going to override this, and this is where you're going. This can also be a warning card. So this is a possible outcome. If you don't share this, if you don't do this sharing, you may end up with more anxiety and more fear. So you might be at one of those threshold points where, what's that quote from Anais Nin about not being able to be in the seed anymore, but the pain of staying hidden becomes greater than the pain of opening up, something like that. So that's a little bit of the threshold where you might be at this week in some sort of situation in your life where the pain of holding back, the pain of isolation, the pain of having really strong defensive boundaries and not wanting to get hurt, the pain of not wanting to get hurt may overwhelm your fears of getting hurt long enough for you to be able to do this, right? But if you don't do that, that pain of isolation and remaining locked away, and not the pain of not sharing parts of yourself and not allowing yourself this freedom, could become much greater and could haunt you for a while. But if you do share, you're also going to have like some sort of emotional backlash. Sometimes it's really helpful to have friends or therapists or someone that can sit there and be like, yep, you made yourself vulnerable and now you're very scared, and this is normal. This is normal, totally normal. It doesn't mean you did a dumb thing. I mean, you definitely want to be smart about this, but you've got these swords here, so you're clearly being smart about this, right? So, so clearly we have some clear, honest, intellectual inspiration going forward. All right, Capricorn, I hope that that was helpful for you. It was a very interesting reading for me. Thank you so much for your likes, comments, and subscribes. I really do enjoy seeing them and reading them and connecting with you guys that way. So thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful week.